Many people with Parkinson's, due to the rigidity in their spine and sometimes a little kyphosis, so it's a little bit of an extra curve, a slumping in the chest and an extra curve in the upper back, experience issues with their neck and shoulders. So we're just going to take a few minutes and kind of explore that a little bit this morning. So I'm going to ask Richard to lie back over a block that's placed across his mat so that his shoulder blades are on the block. So the block is like a table, and he's laying his shoulder blades down onto that block. And then behind his head he has a second block, which is up a little bit higher so that the neck isn't extending back or in an uncomfortable position. You could even put the block higher up onto its next height. So he'll let his arms go for a moment. And this is something that I really like to use a lot in my own practice and also for people with Parkinson's, just to allow the muscles of the upper chest to soften and open. And we usually do a little breathing where there's an inhalation into the space at the back of the breastbone that's expansive, and there's an exhalation where there's a release or a softening of the arms and the belly and the diaphragm. So you can spend a couple minutes here, even maybe up to about 5 minutes here, depending on what you want to do. We're just going to have Richard take another breath or two before he comes out. Good. And so you want to be very careful with your head and neck when you roll to the side to come out of this position. So he's going to roll onto his left side, bringing his arm with him. And then when he pushes up, he'll use strong arms, heavy head, and push himself up. So we use a chair wall to get a little bit of opening in the shoulders and the armpits. I'm actually going to have them do first a quick dog pose with the chair seat, if you would please. So he places his hands on the front of the seat and extends back his legs to create length in the spine. And in our classes, in our Parkinson's classes, we talk about having tall armpits, which means the armpits are open from top to bottom. And this sequence is going to work with that just a little bit. So maybe 3 to 5 breaths here. You don't have to stay long. And then he'll walk forward and stand up. So I'm going to place a blanket on the seat of this chair and have Richard kneel down in front of the chair. If your knees are sensitive, you could put a second blanket under the knees for a little bit of padding. He's going to place his elbows on the front of the chair seat. And then we're going to put the block in his hands. So just to make sure that you can see how he's holding this block, his palms are on the edge of the block. If you have a lot of tightness in your shoulders, it might not be possible to spread the hands this far, so you might put the block between your hands this way, and you can bring the palms together. So he presses his palms into the sides of the block, and then draws back away from the chair through his hips and his thighs. And he can imagine sliding his elbows forward to the wall in front of him. You can see that he's resting his head lightly on the seat. And again, we're creating an opening or a tallness in the armpit. Yeah, he's playing around just a little bit with where the block is, whether it's towards the upper back or towards the wall a little bit more. And the one thing you want to watch out for is don't allow the ribs to fall forward towards the floor too much. Can you show what that looks like? Yeah, so he's hanging down his lower back instead of opening his shoulders. So he picks up the ribs a little bit, draws back through the hips, and then let's take one more breath because we've been doing quite a bit. Good. And we can walk in this corner a little bit. Nice. I've quizzed my students in my classes before about what their favorite yoga poses are, and this one is always a favorite, and we call it yoga glue. So Richard's going to stand at the wall with his toes Place his hands on the wall at the height of his shoulders. So you want to spread your palms and have your index fingertips looking at the ceiling. He'll slowly start to slide his hands up the wall. And you may find that your shoulders are asymmetrical. There may be one shoulder that moves a little bit easier than the other. So please don't stress a tight shoulder or a shoulder that doesn't work quite so much, and kind of try to stay at the level where it's workable for you. You can see that Richard's resting his forehead on the wall, and he's creating a lot of length from the pinky finger all the way down through the side body, tail, and heels. So in a moment, he's going to rise up onto his toes just a little bit so his heels lift a little bit off the floor. And this is where the yoga glue comes in. He's going to glue his hands a little higher up the wall. And he's going to decide to keep them there. That's how yoga glue works. It works when you pay attention to it. So he pays attention to pressing his palms down. And then he lengthens down through the side body, the rim of the pelvis, the tail, and he drops his heels back down to the floor. Make sure to breathe when you're doing this. Good. And then on his next exhalation, we'll slide his hands back down the wall and gently push yourself back into an upright position. Good. So let's grab the strap. And if you would, maybe you could turn your back to the camera so we can see what you're doing behind yourself. So he's going to hold on to the strap in his hands with his palms facing backward. And so he's standing in mountain pose, and he's going to take the strap and scrub it down the back of his body towards his heels. And as he scrubs that strap down, I'm going to cinch the shoulder blades down the back a little bit, which will then lift the chest. So we've got this idea of having a flashlight beam right in the center of the sternum. And if we're slumping, the beam is facing the floor a lot of times. So if we allow the shoulder blades to move down the back, we can lift that beam up a little bit more so the beam shines up the light. That's the wall. Good. Now, if he can, he tries to keep the beam lifting, and he begins to lift his hands away from his back. Good. So I want you all to be able to see this from another angle in a moment. So let your hands come down. Would you just turn sideways and just do the process one more time? Good. So he stands in Tadasana, scrubs his hands down towards the heels to cinch the shoulder blades down the back. And you can see that the top part of the sternum goes up just a little bit. And he keeps that lift as he reaches the arms back behind him and lifts them away from his back. Please. And then you can bring his hands back down. So the last sort of active piece that we're going to do here is basically just changing gravity with that particular pose that we just did. So he's going to do exactly what he just did standing, but do it on his belly this time. Would you like a blanket? Thank you. Okay. So he's going to lie his back, his belly. Make sure that your toes aren't touching the wall behind you, so you have a little space behind you. So he's stretching his arms forward, get a little length, and he can lengthen back through his legs and forward through his arms, sort of like in yoga glue, and feel that nice sense of elongation in the armpits, the belly, and the legs. And then I'll ask him to sweep his arms around behind his back. And we'll place the strap in his hands just like it was when he was standing. And the first thing that he'll do is press his feet down into the floor and make his legs long. And you can roll just a little bit more to the pinky toe side of the foot so the legs turn slightly in. And then he's going to scrub that strap down towards the heels one more time to cinch the shoulder blades down the back. And as he lifts the strap off the back, he can lift his head and his chest away from the floor slightly past the way. So the action is towards the feet and away from the back. The shoulder blades firm a little bit. That lifts the top of the breast pressing in that flashlight beam, take care of your neck. And let's take one more breath. Good. And then roll down, turn your head. Good. And then I'm just going to ask Richard to roll right over onto his back, right over his knees. You could practice that particular pose 2 or 3 more times. So we're just giving you sort of a brief overview. I'm going to give him a pillow for his head. And then we'll take the chair, put your feet, please. And he's going to rest with his legs up in the seat of the chair. So I place the chair so that his calves are supported. So in that last sequence, the last pose was a bit of a back bend, and so if you felt any sense of compression at all in the back, coming into a position like this with the legs up can be quite helpful for releasing the muscles of the lower back. It also is wonderful to have the legs a little bit higher. It's a little bit of an inversion, and it can be extra calming for the nervous system, particularly if you're dealing with those non-motor symptoms like anxiety or insomnia. And this is a position where you could stay, and I would recommend that you stay for 15 to 20 minutes if you have the time. If you don't have the time, make it 5. But 15 to 20 minutes will allow your nervous system to